And then before I get started, again, I'm Dan Ferris. I use he, him pronouns. I'm joining us from St. Louis. I'm the Assistant Dean for Policy Initiatives and an Assistant Professor of Practice at the Brown School. I'm just joining us at noon from having taught this morning, my section of Social Policy Analysis and Evaluation. So it was a quick transition, but I've been sharing my screen in presentation mode and facilitation mode all morning. So I'm caffeinated and ready to go. Joe, who was in my class last semester, we were in week 4, so we made it to step-by-step policy analysis. So some really great discussions about assigning blame when you're forming a policy analysis process. So speaking of, I was wondering if I could just invite Angelica and Nicholas into the space just to say a quick hello and introduce themselves and their roles in the program.
Hi everyone, my name is Angelica Santiago Gonzalez. I'm a she, her pronouns. I'm a third year student, MSW, MSP. I finished my master's in social work policy last summer. Yeah, I'm not sure now. But I did finish it, and now I'm on my last semester of my MSW program. I am currently living in Oahu, Hawaii, as I finish out my program virtually.
Thanks, Angelica, and welcome. Angelica is the graduate assistant for the MSP program, in addition to everything else she keeps very busy with. And she's the ambassador, the student ambassador for our graduate policy scholars program at the Brown School. Another thing that she finished in 2020, which feels like either yesterday or years ago already. And Nicholas, welcome.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Asher. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm joining from St. Louis. I'm a social work student and a social policy student as well. My social work concentration is in mental health, and I'm also a student ambassador for the Office of Admissions and Recruitment.
Welcome, Nicholas. And as people are coming in, even if you're a later arrival and you can't see all of the great names and geographies that we're representing over this noon hour, please do feel free just to put in the chat who you are and where you're from. And then we'll also just have some space and time for some open conversation and dialogue when we get a little bit further along. But so again, I'm Dan Ferris. In addition to teaching and my role with the MSP program, I work at the Social Policy Institute at Washington University, where I have a research portfolio focused on food insecurity and hunger, specifically in St. Louis. I also lead training and education initiatives for the Institute. So everything from partnering with colleagues and students on the Graduate Policy Scholars Program to course design and curriculum design, as well as a multi-year initiative with the MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth, which is really focused on data science for social impact and how can we give the social sector better tools, better knowledge, better connections to incorporate data and data science into the work that they're doing. And I see more rectangles populating as we go. So welcome to our new arrivals. It's great to see everyone. And so as we go, I'll acknowledge that there's some people who are familiar with the Brown School. You've been here for a year. You've been with us for, in Angelica's case now, you're wrapping up your 3rd year at the Brown School. So whether you're current or brand new, welcome. The school and university is an incredible place to be advancing cross-discipline policy practice and research. The MSP program in specific has a translatable foundation curriculum, dozens of course options, and more than 15 centers based at the Brown School alone. And Beth might have the latest exact number of how many we've got. It's growing every day, that focus on policy. And so there's a long-standing tradition of policy leadership and policy scholarship and policy practice at the school. Folks might be familiar with the Center for Social Development, maybe even doing work there already, as I see Lewis joining us, the Clark Fox Policy Institute, the Center for Innovation in Child Maltreatment Policy Research and Training, the Center for Obesity Prevention and Policy Research, the Social Policy Institute, which I just mentioned. So it's a really exciting and innovative and cross-disciplinary place to be looking at policy. And there's a little bit of jargon that I'm going to throw around and use today. So again, embracing that some people are here today because you're passionate about policy. It's what you wake up in the morning thinking about. It's been on your journey and been on your mind for as long as you can remember. And other folks are just breaking into the space. And so what is social policy and why a social policy graduate program? So the Brown School uses frameworks and lenses grounded in social work and public health to build on a field, public policy, which has historical roots in political science, economics, and public administration. And so social policy is also about process as much as outcomes. And there is a goal, achieving an inclusive society that is socially, racially, and economically just. And then I'll also talk and throw around policy practice as a term that we can embrace. Policy practice from a broad lens is working to achieve or prevent policy change through advocacy, organizing, policymaker education, and engagement. I'm also realizing now that can I get a quick check? Did my screen share effectively? No, it didn't. Okay, I just realized that. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. There we go. I've had these beautiful slides that I've been talking through. So just in case you're, thanks, Lewis had class with me last semester, so he's more than familiar with some of the technical hiccups that can come along the way. So anyways, these are the beautiful slides that you can now imagine that you had in front of you as I was just kind of talking through. But thinking about social policy and then bringing us to policy practice defined, this broad lens, as I was talking about, working to achieve or prevent policy change through advocacy and organizing. But just as important, you can use policy practice in terms of using a field-specific lens. And that's where I think the real excitement happens with the social policy program, because it draws from students with a varieties of backgrounds in public health, social work, law, and beyond, all bringing their training and their disciplines into a shared goal of advancing social welfare. So even if you're focused on just one of the many lanes of policy practice or of how we kind of think about the different kind of geographies or avenues that you can practice policy in, effective policy work really truly relies on understanding and bridging silos. We like to call ourselves silo busters. So both in terms of the areas of work that we do, as well as looking at specific topics or policy problems. So it isn't just about how do you get advocacy and community nonprofits to better work with or talk to or connect with elected offices and government agencies and think tanks, but how when we look at a specific issue, healthcare, education, transportation, are we looking at those in isolation from each other or cutting across different areas? This week in policy, Joe very kindly pointed out that he listened to or was watching the news, or the comedy news, as we like to call it, which isn't any less informative than the other kind. But a couple of things as I was reflecting on the last few days in the week in policy, and a couple of things that just kind of stood out to me. So the House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee will consider COVID relief legislation that includes the House Child Tax Credit and an earned income tax increase. So this is really would be incredibly impactful for social welfare and impact. But so it's projected by the Congressional Budget Office and others that it would cut the household child tax credit would cut the number of children in policy by 40% in the United States, so almost by half, and increased EITC benefits would benefit over 17 million adults. So this big P policy and kind of more sweeping change. More locally, right here in Missouri, FRAC released its annual school breakfast scorecard. Missouri held steady at number 10, which it cracked into the top 10 just last year, which is exciting for us, for me and my colleagues, as we do a lot of work in this area. But even being number 10, Missouri still only serves 64 free and reduced price breakfasts for every 100 free and reduced price lunches, which is troubling because we know there's direct ties and evidence that having breakfast leads to significantly better educational outcomes for students in school. Last but not least, while the United States made headlines not too long ago in terms of the presidential transition, I do want to just call light to and bring attention to the protests, political power struggles, and demonstrations in Myanmar, Uganda, Russia, India, and around the world. And so policy analysis and policy practice fit under these larger discussions and debates about power, politics, and policy when you fit together more broadly. So needless to say, it's an incredible time to be building skills, knowledge, and network in policy, whether it's for future work that's grounded in activism and advocacy, and administration, government management, or think tanks and research. The MSP is designed to equip the next generation of policy leaders with tools, with skills, with reference points, with frameworks to help to make a greater impact in your future work. So what is this MSP degree? So the MSP is a graduate degree in social policy. It's 31 additional credits to either in conjunction with a dual degree earned at the school, either the MSW or the MPH. It's offered in partnership with a number of global partner universities in China and Israel, who are doing graduate work in public administration and sociology and urban planning and nonprofit management and leadership, who spend 1 year at the Brown School as part of the MSP, as part of a program and partnership there. And then it's also available as a paired degree for people who've earned a graduate degree previously and have spent a number of years working professionally in the field and are interested in pairing a policy graduate degree with their previous coursework and training. And so the curriculum is designed to have foundation courses, elective courses, an internship and short intensive courses, which is a shared model of the program, kind of whatever pathway you're entering from. Those foundation areas are consistent and builds upon a rich history and evolution of the field and study of policy. So policy analysis, politics, statistics, economics, and management. I've bolded 2 of the new classes, which I mentioned previously are going to be offered next year and added to the curriculum for the first time, which we're really excited about. On the economics bucket, public and applied economics, and under management, public administration, finance, and government budgeting class, which I'll say a few words about. So here, as you can see, it's designed for students who are joining in addition to their social work or public health coursework, as well as people who are brand new to the school, coming from another university or another field. It's a joint degree. So we set minimum requirements to fulfill competency here. And even if in your MSW or MPH program, you've completed a class, there are additional opportunities and courses that we've developed and designed specifically for MSP, policy impact assessment, influencing policy implementation, benefit cost analysis, to add in and to go further and deeper into those topic areas. So again, whether you're brand new to policy or whether it's something that you're focusing on more so in your additional program of study, there can be great value and benefit from earning the degree. So these new foundation classes for 2021-2022, which I'm thrilled to just say a little bit more about. So one is public administration, finance, and government budgeting. So this is added into our management foundation area. Effectively working within public administration and budgeting requires an understanding of the components and considerations that establish, maintain, and dictate how government functions at multiple levels. So this course will deploy a comparative lens and to help students understand unique features of various administration and budgeting structures, both in the United States and abroad. And then the outcome, hoping to be that students are better able to advance their own work through administrative bureaucracy and administration and budgeting processes at the local, state, national level to prioritize and advance equity. For public and applied economics, so this is springboarding off of a short course that was offered for a number of years in public economics. And the great feedback we've gotten from students is more economic coursework was of interest. And so students will typically start an econ of social welfare, and then in their second semester take as many as 3 economics courses to fulfill some of their elective credits. So in benefit cost analysis, health economics, and now also a public and applied economics class. So this course builds an understanding of how public econ is used to tackle global economic problems in the public sector and in an international context, but then specifically how public economics is used to address important questions, ranging from retirement policy, social welfare policy, environmental policy, and beyond. Over 40 electives just at the Brown School alone that students choose from. These can be specific skills, GIS mapping, or focused on areas of interest, aging and older adults, poverty and inequality, human rights, community school models, climate change and public health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We also see a number of students taking advantage of some of these advanced foundation courses that we've developed to fulfill their elective requirements as well. And then speaking of new courses to debut in the space, I feel like the big reveal is great. Sorry to leave folks on the edges of their chairs for the first 15 minutes that we've been together. So short courses are a foundational and unique component of the MSP program. So these short courses kick off the program. They're meant to build shared knowledge and understanding and community among our students who are in the program. And they cover a wide range of topics. And typically they're structured in a way that'll be open to whether you're brand new to a topic or have more insights and experience, and opportunities for students to learn from each other as well as from experts in the field. So a couple of examples of what's been offered previously. This summer, we'll be offering online in partnership with our global partner universities 2 one-credit classes, social entrepreneurship policy in Asia, and then a comparative governance and politics class. And then we don't have to do an actual drum roll or anything of the kind, but I'm really excited to share the St. Louis-based short courses for fall 2021. So the way that these are thought about and structured each year, instructors develop, design, and propose new classes for the MSP program to consider. And then they are advanced through the program committee and then made available to students. And so we've got kind of 2 groupings of classes. They're either 1 credit or 2 credit. So we have first and foremost kind of 2 options in the statistics and kind of quantitative analysis bucket. They're open to all, of course, and there might be students who wind up taking both of the statistics classes if that's what you're most interested in. But we have practical statistics and causal methods for social policy, which is really designed to be an on-ramp into statistics for people who could use a refresher or an introduction leading into biostatistics, which is the semester-long introductory class to stats and the core foundational requirement. A great opportunity for folks to refresh or to become a little more familiar working with Derek Brown, who's a faculty at the school. And Derek has promised to start folks off in Excel and, interest in time allowing, move into things like R and Stata and build a little bit of familiarity with some of the statistical analysis packages. Hands-on meta-analysis from beginning to advance. Meta-analysis is how do you look across peer-reviewed studies and look across research and evidence that's been generated to advance new findings. And then what do you do with those findings in terms of advancing policy recommendations? And so that'll be a really great class for people who are interested, particularly in future PhD and research-focused work to build significant knowledge in an avenue of creating and generating new information. The disability, creating an accessible community for people with disabilities and authentic advocacy, relationships, environment, and self are done in partnership with leaders and organizations local here in St. Louis. So the Starclough Disability Institute does significant work in advocacy and policy for people with disabilities, particularly people with disabilities who work. And so the idea of the class here is students are engaging with leaders in disability advocacy at the Starclough Institute to build skills in policy analysis, activism, advocacy, and engagement. And then the authentic advocacy, relationships, environment, and self is led and designed by Ian Forber-Pratt. Ian is the executive director for the Institute for Child Welfare Innovation and the director of advocacy for Children's Emergency Relief International. So he will bring in both very hyper-local St. Louis and US, as well as international perspectives on how our relationships, our environments, and ourselves are present and effective in terms of what we would term authentic advocacy. We'll also be offering a sneak peek of Ian's class as a lunchtime roundtable in the weeks ahead. So if you're interested in learning more or joining us and not already on the Brown School current student mailing list, please just send me a note or put your email in the chat. I'll have my contact information at the end. I'd be glad to invite you to that when it becomes available. If you haven't been in a space virtually or otherwise with Ian, it's a really incredible learning opportunity. And then what does this all lead to? A full-time 3-credit internship as kind of a capstone and culminating event of the program. So the idea here is that you're taking your coursework and implementing it in implementing classroom learning in real world settings. And students do a number of different approaches in a number of different ways. So just a couple of examples. Previous students have done their summer internships or their policy internships in Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill, working with legislators, with the Congressional Coalition on Adoption. thinking about research opportunities and think tank opportunities with the Center for Research on Inclusion and Social Policy, the Centene Center for Health Transformation, and advocacy, NAMI St. Louis, the Chicago Community Trust, and beyond. So some really incredible diverse opportunities that are student-driven and I think really reflect the interests and academic and professional goals of the students who are highlighting here. I'm going to fly through and then say for the discussion some of these other opportunities at the Brown School in particular, which I think are going to be of great interest to a number of our policy students. So one is a Washington, D.C. course, which I can confirm happens even in a global pandemic as I'm teaching it this semester virtually. And I see Angelica and Shraddha has joined us also, who are alums of the course. So welcome, Shraddha. Looking forward to the discussion and a chance to hear about some of your reflections. Government internships in the Graduate Policy Scholars Program. So again, each spring we bring, virtually or in person, up to 40 graduate students to Washington, D.C. over what's typically the spring break, where they pick a policy issue, they develop a policy brief, and they meet with legislators and their staffs on Capitol Hill to advocate for the issues that they care about. And it's not a drill. Elected officials have signed on as co-sponsors to legislation that students have met with them. So it's a really incredible opportunity for students who have experience in government, as well as people who have never been in the same room with, more or less advocated directly to a legislator. And so students also take advantage of local and state internships. In Missouri, the legislative sessions here are typically in the spring. And so what we've had is students do elective practicum towards their elective credits, working either in Jeff City, which is just a short hop, skip, and a jump away from St. Louis, but then also in St. Louis City and County with a number of different opportunities with local policy leaders and faculty. Last but not least, the Graduate Policy Scholars Program is now in its 4th year, if I remember correct, and we have some scholars from previous years and scholars in training amongst us today. So welcome, GPS, shout out. And so this program carries on even in times of a global pandemic. So it's a year-long extracurricular opportunity completed by many MSP students. Some students complete the program before MSP, as I look at a couple of the rectangles on the screen. Some students complete it during MSP. There really isn't kind of a one-size-fits-all approach to it. It's really up to students. But we really do encourage it because it's a great opportunity to network and to connect and to go outside of the classroom and the opportunities that you have. We facilitate social policy seminars. Here's a couple of examples of the lineup that we had a previous year. Again, featuring experts, both in terms of research and practice, looking at diverse facets of social policy. So drawing from Brown School faculty expertise, but also bringing in community partners, philanthropy, government leaders, and beyond. Whew, covered a lot. So I'll bring over into the discussion what our alum are up to, but in general, as you'd imagine, advancing social policy in specific areas in the social sector, creating new knowledge and evidence through research institutes and top PhD programs. Again, hat tip and shout out to a couple of the rectangles I have on the screen today, who I know are on that trajectory. And then leading policy and programs globally, with UNICEF, the Reed C Foundation, and beyond. So whichever of the pathways you think the MSP fits into, we have program alumni who are following similar work and are happy to connect and to be in community as you're thinking about where your program and policy focus leads. Last but not least, the application, if you haven't looked at it already, I know a number of folks are past this point already, but just always want to just say, not making any assumptions about where people are joining us from today. So the application is relatively short and straightforward. The short essay question is really on why policy and drawing connections to what we're talking about today with the policy interests and experience that you have moving forward. One faculty recommendation or letter of recommendation of current resume, CV, or transcripts, and language scores if you're joining us as an international student or from a global partner university. Whew, all right, that was my second woo. That is the whirlwind tour of the MSP program. So my contact information is here. I got a note and wanted to extend greetings from Linwing Fu, who's our global programs manager and works closely with the MSP program and as an academic advisor for a number of students. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, turn off the recording, and open things up for just some general open discussion. And thank you again so much for joining us today.